Okay. Well, this is slightly better late than never. Welcome back, everyone. This is two of the VGC Casters Cup, the VGCCC. And, well, a couple of weeks ago now, we were against none other than the young Jake. And, yeah, the reason this is late, other than the fact that I was on holiday when I actually played Jamie before, is because I did a whole hour's worth of recording, found out that when I got home and plugged in my capture card that OBS changed all my settings, and I didn't test it beforehand. So I've learned something, and hopefully we're going to learn a little bit unfolds as we get into this. Now, Jamie is a very well-known draft player. He's been playing draft for quite a long time. He's also a very, very good team builder. Likes using stuff. So this is the week that I really did do a lot of preparation for. And I have a lot of things that have probably slipped out my brain in the last couple of weeks since I set. So we're going to go into it and see what we can remember, see what we can work out. So without further ado, this is the matchup we're playing. And Jamie's got a really interesting draft. He's got a lot of good quality Pokemon. His draft runs fairly deep in the way that it's structured. It's not got a really hero standout Pokemon, but it has got lots of really, really good options and lots of variation within that. So you've got, he actually drafted his S tier Hisuian Arcanine last, or one of the last picks after everyone had already picked their S tier Pokemon. So you've got the Intimidate Fire type, Rock Slide. You've got Rock Head as well going on Arcanine that he's used in various weeks actually really, really well. The Metagross is a quintessential body press iron defense Pokemon in a lot of draft matches because of the way that Metagross's stats are so well rounded. It's a really tanky Pokemon. It really does lend itself to that, and the clear body stopping its stats getting lowered is also really good because it can't be intimidated, it can't be icy winded, it can't be fake tearsed, for example. It can do its setup and it's very hard to stop it. Although, as I'm learning within this draft league, every team seems to have haze, and I don't know if that's something to do with drafting Dozo Tatsugiri, but yeah, people have been putting haze in their teams, and it's literally, I think, so I'm going into week 5 now, and there has been the option for haze on all 5 of my opponents' teams so far. So, boo! I just want a Dozo in peace. Anyway, Quaquaval's got a lot of different options. It's a middling speed tier Pokemon, but it can boost its speed up. It's got Moxie to work with as well. It's a good offensive Pokemon, and items like Scarf and Clear Amulet really do serve itself well with lots of different coverage options, as well as the ability Terra to make those even more powerful. So Quaquaval's definitely a Pokemon that I was really respecting, as well as the Haze Pokemon in Gengar. And I think this is down to a lot of my draft prep. The first thing I do is like, okay, what can stop Dozo? And we figure that out and then play from there. One of the other things that can stop Dondozo is Rabombi, and this is such a good draft. In fact, Gengar and Rabombi are just fabulous, fabulous draft Pokemon. They've got a lot of options. They're in a high speed tier as well, especially in Regulation Set H that's got kind of middling Pokemon and none of those legendary threats that are really, really fast. These two Pokemon together offer so many support options. You've got Haze, you've got Icy Winds, you've got Tailwind, you've got Skill Swap, which is the thing that can really make Dozo struggle. You've got Acid Spray, Moonblast, Trick, the Destiny Bond. What else is there? There's a bunch of other stuff, and they can attack as well. So really, really good couple of Pokemon. Definitely something to be scared of. Frostmoth, actually, one of the Pokemon that I was really scared of on Jamie's draft. A lot of my prep went into being able to stop Frostmoth, and Or more to the point, stopping Frostmoth stopping me. It's kind of a weird way to say it, but it's pretty important in the preparation that I did, and especially when there's an Oricorio further down the line that's got dancer ability. So Rabombi Frostmoth can Quiver Dance. Aqua Step is a dancing move from Quavel. So all of those get copied by Rabombi, while Rabombi also gets to use a move. No, not Rabombi, Oricorio, while it also gets to use a move. So that's something that's definitely a big deal in Jamie's draft. Moving now, you got another electric type Raichu Alola, which is kind of like regular Raichu, but just part fairy type. Gives it a little bit more offensive option. Good fake out Pokemon. Good Pokemon to have at your disposal. It's got screens. It's got Encore, and it can switch about, put a little bit of pressure on, that sort of thing. Pretty nice, well-rounded sport Pokemon. Poltergeist. Well, I've got Sinistcha, so Jamie got budget Sinistcha, but it's really budget. It's really budget. And Jamie did actually end up trading this away last week, I'm going to say, or this week. So clearly not budget friendly there. Jamie drafted it to be a Sinistcha and worked out. I think eventually it just wasn't as good as Sinistcha. Didn't think about picking it up over Sinistcha, but probably not. Yeah. Crocodile's good all rounder. It's good typing, darkened ground. It compounds a lot of different things. It's got Intimidate. It's got Anger Point as well. Historically, Jamie's actually been known for running Anger Point Crocodile with some, say, Frostlass, using Frost Breath to always critical hit and then activate Anger Point. It's effectively a belly drum for less damage. That's pretty cool. And it's got a lot of options. It can vest, it can scarf, it can band, it can. It's kind of one of those in the middle Pokemon that's got just enough stats to make it kind of do anything you want. I think that's a really cool pick. Torterra, not the greatest, but at some point you've got to pick some lower tier picks. Another ground type, so a little bit of compounding there. But it can stockpile, it can shell smash. It can leech seed support. It can do a few good things. Gudra, pretty solid all round Pokemon. It's one of those. It's a really win condition Pokemon, right? It's like it's got pretty low defenses, but you can bulk those up, or you can just try to knock out all of the Pokemon that get hit by physical attacks. Or there's 2 Intimidates on Jamie's draft, so you can take away the power of all the physical threats and then just stick a Gudra in front of all the special ones and be like, well, now it's access to top what it's doing, but it's got a great move pool, physical and special. And Sap Sipper, I think, is a really underrated ability in general, but also like there's usually something better than it. But in draft, when you can be much more targeted to your opponent, say Lou's got a gas, not a gas, an Amoonguss, and you can just sit a Gudra in front of it, and if it wants to go for a Spore, then you get an attack boost instead of going to sleep, and arguably that's a bit better. It means you don't have to use it. Still be redirected. Okay. An Oricorio, Tailwind, its own Quiver Dance, bit of an attacker, really nice typing. It's basically budget Zapdos. Zapdos obviously not allowed in this format, but yeah, it's really good typing, both offensively and defensively, and the fact that Jamie's team can circle around it and get all those Quiver Dances up is really cool. So the things I'm really threatened by here, Frostmoth for sure, 100%, no questions asked. The Gengar is a Pokemon that I'm going to be having to really deal with quite strongly if I want to bring the Dondozo mode. The Rabombi, certainly something that I'm concerned about. With Braviary, I'm not as worried about the Intimidators, Arcanine and Crocodile, but there's something I kind of have to respect, as well as the Metagross as well. But I think really my primary things that I feel like I need to prepare for are the Gengar, the Rabombi, and the Frostmoth, that row in the middle there. They're the ones that kind of give the team a little bit of problems. If I can deal with those, then I think I'm going to have a good time. Now, last time's video did this in game, but since I'm 2 weeks in, I've changed my team around. So I don't have the Pokemon in game now. So we're going to do a little bit of a different format. And but the actual information, if see all of the gory details behind the scenes. And so I'll go in order. Grim, Braviary, Cinderace, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Sinistcha, and the Dondozo. Those are a really cool. They're a really cool team. The first time that I've ever used a offensive Grimmsnarl, but I thought it was really important here because in practice it was very clear that Spirit Break's a very good move. Pokemon. It's the Quavel for super effective. It's the Ice Scales, Frostmoth for good damage, but take a look of all of the special attackers there, the Goodra, the Oricorio, the Frostmoth. Not the Ribombee, actually. It doesn't lower the special attack of the Ribombee, but the Spirit Break doing that to all of those special attackers kind of keeps things in check, but also does some really good damage. Sucker Punch as well, kind of important, given that Jamie has the ability to go a lot faster than my team, but also boost up faster than, say, my Cinderace, for example. And I've just realised that this is slightly wrong. That coaching on Cinderace should be a helping hand. But yeah, whatever. We'll get to it when we get to it. The Sucker Punch really important, yeah, for the being able to pick stuff off at low HP and kind of keep Pokemon in check. Terra Steel to be able to play defensively into a lot of Pokemon on Jamie's team. In fact, my Dondozo is Terra Steel as well for the same reason. Partly the good defensive typing, partly just so the Dondozo can't be Draco Meteored over and over again with its unaware ability. It ignores the special attack drops from Draco Meteor and just hits at a consistent pace over and over again, and that's kind of hard for Dondozo to deal with, especially when it doesn't have its partner Tatsugiri. And Lash Out is wrong as well, actually. That was Assurance. I've really not done a great job here, but we'll pretend we know what we're doing. So that Lash Out became Assurance afterwards, and or during the match, and the Assurance was really important because for the Trick Room mode, Grimmsnarl was slower than my Trick Room attackers in Sinistcha, Dondozo, and Ursaluna. But out of Trick Room, it was also slower than Braviary and Cinderace. And so it kind of sat in the middle of my two modes. And turns out, oh my, there is so many mistakes. This is a really old version, apparently, of what I use. So we'll go for it. So Lash Out is Assurance on the Grimmsnarl. The EV spreads, fortunately, are all the same. It was there. It was able to take. Now, was it able to take? It's a really good question. It was something to do with Sludge Bomb from the Gengar. Special side. On the physical side, just a little bit to help it out with the, say, Metagross Bullet Punches or Arcanine Flare Blitzes, that sort of thing. Certainly the Flare Blitzes was something that I was really a bit concerned. I wasn't really convinced that the Metagross was coming at this point. So, Spirit Break Assurance. The Braviary was a Choice Scarf, and this was really important because with the Frisk on the Grimmsnarl, and this was actually a key thing that I haven't talked about, is like Frisk in draft is so important because you get information. This is closed team sheet, open Terra. So I knew what Terra types my Boyt was running, but I didn't know anything else about the Pokemon other than what they were. And so having Frisk gives me a lot of early information, and I wanted to be able to capitalize it. And my plan was to do that with Braviary, have a Choice Scarf, how to figure out where the Focus Sash is. That's a big thing for Ribombee, Gengar. Focus Sash could be in either place, could be on the Oricorio actually. And I wanted to take advantage of that, use the Choice Scarf on Braviary to then attack into the Ribombee or the Gengar, try and take an early KO and then play from there. The Braviary dual wing beat allows it to bypass a focus ash as well, so also lets me know where to fake where I've frisked. I know where covert cloaks might be too, so I can fake out dual wing beat, try to get an early advantage, and then play from there. The Terror Blast actually was Terror Ghost, trying to take advantage of that, and then I realised that Braviary actually got Shadow Claw, so that Terror Blast was actually a Shadow Claw on the Braviary in the end, but it didn't really come to the match anyway. Faster than Rabombi with the Choice Scarf, enough power to be able to knock out the Frostmoth, I think, on average, and just U-turn to round it out for moving things around. Cinderace was a pretty key part of what I wanted to do as far as coverage goes, and it was coaching for quite a while in testing, but I didn't really get to use it too much, and I actually ended up replacing it with Helping Hand just to try to say Helping Hand Sucker Punch stuff, or if I'm in Trick Room, Cinderace gets the opportunity to help out a slower Pokemon. And so, yeah, I ended up with Helping Hand instead of coaching there, but nothing really too complicated to say. The combination of fire and fighting, pretty good coverage into Jamie, and the fighting was really important because it was good neutral damage into a lot of the team. More specifically, for Quavel, Metagross, if it's gone for a weird terror, or the Goodra, that's actually really quite important. The Goodra caused me problems in testing. Blood Moon, well, it's not really that complicated, but it does the job. We get into Trick Room, hopefully, in some cases. We go Terra Normal, Life Orb, and Blood Moon's Hyper Voices, etc. Just put pressure onto Jamie's team. It's because I bypass the ice scales effectively, because you're Terra Normal, Blood Moon with a Life Orb, maybe even a Helping Hand, who knows, can really, really dish out damage. And I wanted to go absolutely full into the Ursaluna. I think I might have played around with the EV spread to make sure it definitely survived a Frostmoth Ice Beam. But they're pretty similar to this. It's like similar enough. Really doesn't do much of it. But good special defense investment, and of course going as slow as possible. My Ursaluna is pretty fast in games, so I am slightly hampered by what I can actually do. But hey, let's still a Blood Moon Ursaluna. Sinister, Terra Dark, help it get into Trick Room more reliably. Machigotcha, Trick Room, Rage Powder, nothing really too exciting there. Didn't think that having Life Dew would actually make too much of a difference to this particular match. And I wanted to tech on Shadow Ball just in case the Metagross arrived, and also to try to put damage onto Pog as well if Jamie brings that. So just a little bit of an offensive tech there, and the Hospitality doing some stuff. Always a shame if you want to go Trick Room, you have to lead Sinister and then you don't get the Hospitality going. But hey, you know, sometimes getting the Trick Room environment is more important than what your abilities are doing. I prefer that than to be able to smash Boyt in the face, rather than figuratively, rather than not get into Trick Room and run into. And I think this is like one of the keys for a lot of the teams that Jamie makes in the real world in this draft league. He does like to be weak to Trick Room, but we'll see if we can abuse it. Dondozo, Solo Dozo, playing Clear Amulet because of the two Intimidators on Jamie's side of the field, but also there's some boosting going on, and Unaware felt like it was an important thing, depending on just respecting the Metagross really. In a lot of it, the coverage is good enough for most of Jamie's team. And Yawn was something that I teched on a little bit later on, so that I could effectively deal with some of those boosting Pokemon. I could say, well, you're going to boost, I can't knock you out this turn, so I'm going to Yawn, then Protect, and then you're asleep. So like, yeah, you got the boosts, but you're asleep, you can't use them, switch it out. So Yawn was a pretty important part of the game plan there as an option, as a nice little tool to be able to use. So that's kind of my prep. That's my thinking. I probably forgot most of it, but that was the things that felt important to me. So, without further ado, this background. Let's get into the game, and we'll. Okay, so this is game one, and my plan always in game one was to play Grimsnarl Braviary and just attack, find out where the sash is, attack into Jamie's stream, trying to make the early lead, and then in the back have two Pokemon that kind of finish things off. So that's what I'm starting to lock in here. I can't actually remember what I did here. So this will be cool. Again, get to kind of rediscover this together as we go through. I'm not very good at talking and playing, you see, so I like to kind of look back at these things retrospectively and explain my thought processes as much as I possibly can. But I'm just going to be looking back and guessing what past Ben did in this spot. So I think the overarching thing is leading Grimsnarl Braviary, and if I'm doing that, then I'm probably going for my faster mode. So I want to lock in Cinderace, and I also lock in the Ursaluna because it's quite difficult for him to knock out Ursaluna, especially Terrad, depending on obviously what he's been bringing. And actually, I'm just going to go back slightly and pause it here. So the Arcanine and the Frostmoth with Terra Grass. In fact, let me see if I can get this from lovely message. Yeah. So the Arcanine and the Frostmoth with Terra Grass, as was the Gengar. The Oricorio was Terra Fairy, the Poltergeist was Terra Steel, and the Ribombee was Terra Water. So that's pretty important in this game. So I knew my Cinderace was actually really quite good in this spot, and it was able to hit a lot of the Pokemon. It really didn't bring a lot of overall resistance to fire, and specifically to Pyro Ball. So I think this is why I went for Cinderace in game one. So we get to frisk the Pixie Plate from the Ribombee, and we get to identify that the Gengar has the Focus Sash. So this is a really nice spot. And straight away, I'm thinking the Grimmsnarl is pretty important. I want to frisk something else later in the game, and I just don't want it to get Sludge Bombed. So because of that, and the fact that Jamie knows that it's also not Prankster now. As soon as you reveal, that's the downside of Frisk, is that you reveal that you're not something else. And so Jamie, being very good at knowing what everything can do pretty quickly, also knows, having played Grimmsnarl in draft, that he can just attack into that with Gengar this slot. So I want to play defensively. Ursaluna, being part ground type, does resist a Sludge Bomb as well. And we get the Drill Wing beat off straight away. Ribombee goes bye-bye. And that's good. That's a big deal. It's something that could be really important. I don't get to learn anything about it other than that it's Pixie Plate. But I do get it off the field. And the Sludge Bomb goes into Braviary. Pretty good damage, but I guess I've trained my Braviary pretty well. I don't think I specifically wanted it to take a Gengar Sludge Bomb or two Gengar Sludge Bombs, but it did. I think that was to do with making it survive either Frostmoth Ice Beam. I don't think it can survive a Revelation Dance from Oricorio. I think I probably based a lot of my special offensive calcs on the Ice Beam. And here's the Oricorio. So that's coming out on this turn. I'm feeling pretty safe here, right? The Braviary, I don't necessarily want it to go down, but if it does, that's okay. And I've got a good opportunity to put a lot of damage onto Jamie's side of the field with this Blood Moon Ursaluna. It's not really being threatened too much here. So I get the Drill Wing beat down on the Gengar, again, it's another Pokemon that I really just don't want to have to deal with long term. The coast body on the dual wing beat, not great. And yeah, here we go. This is the hypnosis, the blind hypnosis, as many people call it, putting my Blood Moon to sleep. Braviary goes down to the Revelation Dance. No surprises there. And it would have had to switch out next turn anyway, because it wouldn't have been able to move. It would have been sitting on the field struggling. I might have left it sitting on the field struggling, but it would have had. And the downside of my Ursaluna being asleep is the fact that it's asleep. The upside is it got to take one of its mandatory sleep turn here. So I get to wake up pretty quickly, relatively speaking. And the nice thing is that it also gives me the switch in. The Braviary goes down, gets the switch into the Cinderace, and I know that that Gengar is not holding a Choice Scarf because I frisked it earlier. It's holding a Focus Sash. We've also learned that the Life Orb is on the Oricorio. So I didn't want to deal with Gengar anymore. That can go bye-bye. So nice little Pyro Ball into that. Good job, Cinderace. Quiver Dance. Pretty nice move here, actually, from the Oricorio. Jamie needs to get himself set up and going. But fortunately, that one turn of sleep that you've already used picks up. I get a one turn sleep and a Blood Moon goes into the Oricorio. And now it's within getting knocked out by Life Orb on its next attack. So it's going really, really well for me at this point. The Cinderace has got a Focus Sash. So I'm not even slightly concerned about the Frostmoth coming in because it's Terra Grass. It can't resist fire type moves, and therefore I just get to Pyro Ball. And if I miss the Pyro Ball, this is the worst case scenario, then I probably get to do it again. If I don't, the Grimmsnarl's in the back. I haven't committed Terra yet, and it's too bad. I know my Ursaluna can survive an Ice Beam from Frostmoth. So the Life Orb Recall takes out the Oricorio, the Pyro Ball, knocks out Frostmoth, game 1. Good job in the book. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. This seems pretty good. Jamie is a very good draft player. He had a different plan, clearly. And after we played the match, he told me what his plan was. I'll reveal that a little bit later. But it's going well. It's going well for us. So, game 2, do we need to do any adjusting? I was thinking about this at the time. I remember thinking about this at the time. It's like, well, actually, this lead overall puts on quite a bit of pressure. The Grimmsnarl can just go on the offensive straight away. The Cinderace is so good that I don't feel like I want to move away from it. The Pyro Ball is so impactful in the matchup as a whole. And so I think my idea here was just to let's see what Boyt reacts, how Boyt reacts to this. Let's not mess around. It's worked in game 1. Let's try this again. But then I thought, and I remember this as well, now that I'm watching it back, then I thought, well, actually, if I lead the Braviary and the Cinderace, that's faster than everything on Jamie's team. Unless the Arcanine is Choice Scarfed. If the Arcanine is Choice Scarfed and is Intimidate, then the Braviary gets a Defiant boost, and I can play into that. And so I wanted to get a little bit more on the offensive. I know a little bit about where Jamie's items are now. And Grimmsnarl is quite an important offensive threat for the late game. So, a little bit of a switch up from Jamie leading the Poltergeist and the Ribombee. And the Poltergeist is kind of pretty annoying, but I think I figured out at this point that a Pyro Ball from Cinderace is pretty likely to be able to always knock out the Poltergeist. And so a Raid Powder here wouldn't be too bad. It would be knocking out, if I just go for the Dual Wing Beat, it'd be knocking out the Poltergeist, and then there's 3 Pokemon against my 4. Maybe Jamie gets Equivalence up with Rabombi, but I've still got the Focus Sash, and there's a lot of things that are still going overall in my favour if I just get this thing knocked out. And just a reminder that the Poltergeist is Terra Steel in this spot. Doesn't go for it because it's weak to fire. Jamie instead, a little bit of an odd decision actually, committing the Terra Water and the Rage Powder at the same turn. Kind of didn't need to really do that. But the Dual Wing Beat goes into the Poltergeist, hits it a couple of times, Equivalence Guns up on the Rabombi. That's a little bit scary actually, because that means that Dancer is now kind of set up and in play. And the Pyro Ball connects onto Poltergeist. So, nice knockout there. Poltergeist, pretty annoying Pokemon. The redirection is so to be able to get rid of it on this turn is probably good. Probably good overall. And now the question is can my 4 Pokemon at full HP beat Jamie's 4 Pokemon at full 3 Pokemon at full HP with Terra used up and the Rabombi having a boost of its own? I think the Rabombi having a boost is clearly the main problem that I've got. I've traded a Pokemon for a better position on Jamie's side. I don't know if I can do any better at that point. But the Oricorio comes in, and this is where it starts to get a little bit scary, right? The Oricorio can get its boost going. And now I've got to think pretty strongly about how I react to this spot. I want to get damage into the room. I think that's one of my key objectives here, because that means that it's going to not set up the Oricorio too much. I haven't got my Dondozo in the back. And so Braviary I want to preserve for a little bit later. If the Frostmoth comes in, more specifically. We already knew about the Life Orb. We already knew about the Pixie Plate. So that Frisk not doing too much. But the Moonblast goes into the Cinderace instead. And here's the hard jump kick. And Cinderace didn't put his... Well, to be fair, he has hit 2 Pyro Balls already. So, yeah, a little bit unfortunate there. But, these things happen. I chose to put the moves on the team. So, would have preferred to hit that on balance. But this is still playable here. Both Rabombi and Oricorio have a single Quiver Dance, their names. And this is a bit tricky, but I do get the opportunity to Fake Out here, which is pretty nice. Just allowing my Pokemon to get into a slightly better position and the Grimmsnarl not to be straight knocked out. Now, Rabombi does have Shield Dust as an ability, very, very likely. So it isn't going to be Fake Outable, and therefore the Fake Out has to go into the Oricorio this time. And Grimmsnarl is weak to Fairy, so we're going to Terra Steel. And make sure that Rabombi is not doing the business, as we would say. So Fake Out goes down, Rabombi kill knocks out the Cinderace. All good. Kind of what I expected to happen, but I had to Terra Steel regardless, just in case the Rabombi slot. And now the choice is, do I bring out my Scarf Braviary that he knows is Scarf and cannot protect itself, or do I bring out the Ursaluna and try to put some damage on the field? And I decide to go for a little bit of a bluff here. Bring in the Braviary. It's an easy target for Oricorio. I kind of expect Jamie to see through this, to be honest, but I felt like I needed to go for it. Is put a target in front of Jamie with an obvious switch out to Ursaluna and then see if it works. And so I, in fact, did not switch out the Braviary on that turn. I decided that if Jamie goes into the Grimmsnarl, which is carrying an Assault Vest that he doesn't yet know about, then I could get 2 lots of damage off and be able to get myself into a really strong position, put things in range of Sucker Punch, that sort of thing. Jamie just goes for the Braviary. I think that's totally fair enough. The likelihood that is at this point that the Frostmoth is in the back, and so yeah, don't blame Jamie at all for making that call. A little bit unfortunate for us, but you know that's the risk you take when you put a bait out. Sometimes people catch it. So Ursaluna comes in, and it's definitely under pressure, but I've got Sucker Punch, which I've yet to reveal in the set. And so a quick Blood Moon and a Sucker Punch is a really nice way to start putting some damage down onto the field. We've still not done any damage to the Ribombee, and I'm quite aware that I really do need to start damaging it if we're gonna have a sensible endgame to play. So we get the Sucker Punch, that gets the KO, really nice. Another Quiver Dance, and definitely a big Quiver Dance here. That's the third one this Ribombee has gone for this game. But it turns out Blood Moon Ursaluna is pretty strong, with high special attack and a Life Orb. And it is indeed the Frostmoth. So I think at this point I've absolutely done it. This is GG's as far as I'm concerned. And for those that have already watched this on Jamie's channel, if you haven't, go and watch it from his perspective, because it's a really interesting watch. But then this is the charm reveal, and at this point, I was, this was not a great position for me to find myself in now, because I expected for the Grimmsnarl in the end game to be able to do lots and lots of damage, but the charm just mitigates all of that. The Hyper Voice doesn't even knock out the Ribombee, so that's clearly a bit of a problem. Terrastilled Grimmsnarl's pretty good in this spot with the Assault Vest, even though that there's a lot of boost on the field, and the Grimmsnarl Spirit Break is doing what it's there designed to do. And now I've got a choice. I kind of think that Jamie's going to go for a Moonblast here rather than keep, given the lack of damage that it did on Frostmoth, try to get some extra damage on the Grimmsnarl so that Frostmoth can break through it in the end game. And I think that the Frostmoth wants to keep on going for Quiver Dances to break through the special attack drops that I'm giving it from Spirit Break. Got that totally wrong. And this was a real misplay. Looking back at this game, the second time round when I recorded the first time, I realised how much of a misplay this was. If I just knocked out, even at 4-, if I knocked out the Ribombee that turn with a Spirit Break and protected, then without recovery, the Frostmoth wouldn't likely have been able to break through the Grimmsnarl. And eventually I would have got a critical hit. Because you see there, it just didn't really do any damage whatsoever. And for some reason, I'm absolutely, I think, refusing to target down this Ribombee. So, yeah, I definitely didn't play this endgame as well as I could. But I did think when we finished playing that it was down a lot to the high jump kick miss. But without the high jump kick miss, I still had a winning position. And now I'm looking for critical hits. This is the only thing that really would change this scenario. Spoilers, it doesn't come off. So I'm now at 6- on the Grimmsnarl. Lots of Quiver Dance boosts on the Frostmoth. Jamie is just making sure that he's got the biggest advantage that he can. I do think this is a bit of a misplay from Jamie. I do think that he needs to realistically pressure down the Grimmsnarl a bit quicker, because Jamie's creating opportunities for the for himself to get critical hit and for his day to be ruined. But as it turns out, he's got himself enough boosts now where he can get my Grimmsnarl pretty low. Spirit Break comes in, doesn't get a critical hit, on that. We all go home and cry a little bit, except for Jamie, who does not cry. In this scenario, a little bit of leftovers recovery, and yeah, I'm not meant to run from battle, but I did. Jamie and I decided what Pokemon got KO in that spot. So let's forward back to team preview. So I want to do something different in this game. The charm really changes the game there, and I hadn't revealed that I've got Clear Amulet on Dozo. So I figured this game was the game for a change up. And changing things up is going for the Trick Room mode rather than going for the Tailwind mode. Feels a bit weird leaving the Blood Moon Ursaluna at home. But I kind of think if you squint a little bit and put your head on the side, that Dondozo is actually sometimes just as powerful as Ursaluna. Or at least it likes to think so when it's got its buddy old pal around with it. And I think it's like, looking at Jamie's team, I feel like I can deal with a lot of those threats with the Trick Room mode without the Ursaluna. Even though getting into Trick Room with Ursaluna is really, really nice, the problem comes when there's a lot of equivalence boost, and if I'm busy setting up Trick Room and not really threatening down those special threats, then I think Jamie's got a good opportunity there to take advantage of my Blood Moon. So I decided not to bring it. Decided to bring the Dozo in and try to take advantage of a slightly different game condition. Again, Jamie leading with Poltergeist Rabombi, and I bring out my Cinderace and Sinnoh Char. So I'd already worked out, I didn't think the Arcanine was coming, and so I'd already worked out that this was the other reason for dropping the Braviary and going for the slower mode, is that the Poltergeist gets knocked out from a Pyro Ball pretty much every time. In fact, I think I worked it out on the basis of max defense training on the Poltergeist. So I was pretty confident in this spot that I could pick up the KO here and get myself into a good spot, get the Trick Room up, and as aforementioned, as part of the team building video, Jamie tends to be a little bit weaker to those Trick Room environments. So then Arcanine comes in and it's holding an air balloon. Like, okay, fine. Poltergeist takes a lot of damage. Pretty good for me. And yeah, this is getting Trick Room up. Now, the Arcanine I don't know anything about at this point in the game, other than it's got a pretty cool item, actually. I like the idea of the air balloon that you can switch in on a Ursaluna Blood Moon. I mean, it's super effective, but it's definitely an interesting choice. But this time I know that the Arcanine is probably going to go for Terra Grass. And so I look in the Matcha Gotcha to try to knock out the Poltergeist, if I can, but I can't because it's not there anymore. But also, if the Arcanine goes for a Terra Grass, then it can get burnt. And I thought that was a pretty cool scenario there. The Terra Water. Oh, I had Terra Dark on my paste. No, it was Terra Water. I'm lying to you. Been lying to you all the whole time. So the Terra Water on the Sinistcha. Nice for dealing with the Flare Blitzes. Make sure that Arcanine can't really pressure it too much. Get a Matcha Gotcha off. Get the Dondozo in. Do some pretty good damage. Critical hit. Woo, go me. And pop in the old air balloon, which doesn't make any difference whatsoever. And then I see the Snarl. My Dondozo doesn't have its stats dropped, and therefore... Oh yeah, no, this was it. The Dondozo is in, therefore the Arcanine goes for Terra Grass. I remember that. No spoilers, it goes for Terra Grass. And so I was thinking, well, this is the spot where I really need to try to pressure down this Oricorio and knock it out before it goes for any sort of Quiver Dances. I can sit in front of most Arcanines pretty comfortably with Dondozo, even though I'm burnt, or even if I'm burnt. So if it has Will-O-Wisp, it doesn't really have any other threatening moves whatsoever. And since it's got Snarl, you can kind of assume that Will-O-Wisp comes with a package, a little bit more of a supportive set. Knows the Clear Amulet's there, so the Intimidate does nothing. Waterfall was one of those moves that I teched on because it can flinch, and that's actually more important to this matchup than a defense drop from Liquidation. Didn't get the flinch, boo hiss. And the Oricorio gets its Quiver Dance going. Here's the Wisp into the Dozo, and this Dozo now is doing pretty lackluster damage, but it's still chipping away. It's still got the Yawn available to it as well. So I'm feeling kind of okay about this spot here. And so now I'm pretty happy again to just sort of keep going for matcha gotchas. And at this point in the game, I remember thinking, or not thinking, that there was too much that Jamie could do to allow this Oricorio to hang on. So I've got my Dondozo burnt, but I've got the Oricorio in range. I was thinking, brilliant. I did, however, not really respect the thing that I've got on my team and that Jamie has got a budget version of on his team, and that being the Poltergeist. And so this Arcanine comes out for the Poltergeist, and Jamie gets to heal up the Oricorio pretty nicely, actually, with its Hospitality to a good stage of HP. Waterfall comes in, doesn't do that much whatsoever. Matcha Gotcha hits both things, fortunately, but after the Snarl, maybe didn't matter at all, but does miss the KO on the Poltergeist, which is pretty annoying because I've realised how much Hospitality is actually pretty good. I should know that, but we get the flinch. There you get the flinch. So that's nice. The Oricorio is not able to move this turn. So I've got to keep on chipping away. I think this is like the real key with this particular game plan and this matchup is I haven't got, especially with the burn and the snarl, too much damage output on Jamie, but Jamie's not got that much damage output on me, aside from obviously the Oricorio with the Life Orb and the Quiver Dance boost, but that Arcanine's not looking like it's too threatening. If it's got Will-O-Wisp and Snarl, probably got Flare Blitz because I've got a Sinister. And well, yeah, there's not many other moves it can have. It's either not got Protect and therefore does have a different coverage move, or it has Protect. And so I'm kind of sitting here chilling, actually. Although I can't do too much damage, they can't do too much damage to me either. Trick Room expires. This is maybe a little bit problematic because of the Oricorio. But this turn I decide to take advantage of the thing that I talked about by team building with Dozo. Get the Yawn onto the Oricorio and make it say goodbye to those boosts. So I Rage Powder away, make sure I think the Dondozo is more important in this part of the matchup than the Sinister, although it'd be nice to get Trick Room up again. It's not completely essential because the Dondozo, aside from the Oricorio, is not really threatened. There's an Arcanine that can't really do it, and a Poltergeist. So I want to get the Yawn off instead and force this Oricorio to be slower than my Cinderace eventually. Be important for later. So this works double as well because the game plan is put something in Yawn, then bring a Fake Out in to stop it from doing anything. So if it stays in, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't stay in, then it loses the boost, and I can take advantage of it. It's also in Sucker Punch range, important, but the Arcanine, Jamie can keep on pivoting things around. Definitely could keep this Oricorio healthy, but I kind of figured that he wouldn't. really go for it. And so apparently I made a read here. Didn't expect myself to make a read here, but I made a read here. And expected the Oricorio to switch out this turn. The Arcanine coming in, drops the Grimmsnarls. Attack, that's going to be pretty important for later on, but I do get the KO on this Poltergeist here, and I assume that there was either a Life Dew coming out to try and heal the Arcanine. Maybe, but the Arcanine's now a little bit in trouble. Or at least not really doing too much in this spot. There is the Will-O-Wisp threat. That's definitely a big deal. And Terra Grass is really nice in this spot, but I do have a Cinderace sitting in the back. I think Jamie's got to be really careful of that. And now that the Poltergeist has gone, Oricorio can't be healed up. And so if I can get into a spot where I can get some real damage going, or get the Cinderace in front of the Oricorio that isn't boosted up, then I can really make some headway in this game. Now, I was really concerned at this point. The Ribombee coming in means that Quiver Dance and Dancer is in. Even though the Oricorio is on low HP, it's still got enough that if it switches in and gets the Dancer going, then it really could cause me some problems. But no Dancer this turn. I was pretty pleased about that, actually, overall. But here's the reveal of the Flare Blitz on the Arcanine. I kind of didn't expect this double up to get the KO here, but fair play, it did. The Arcanine takes a little bit of chip damage, but I think more importantly, I get that more than 50% damage onto the Ribombee, and all that damage is from burn, basically, on the Dondozo. So I have to bring the Cinderace in here. And this is tough, right? But equally, Heavy Slam into the Ribombee knocks it out. Pyro Ball into the Arcanine knocks it out. But I'm pretty convinced neither of these Pokemon at this point have anything that's going to hit the Cinderace for super effective. And as long as I cover the scenario of Oricorio getting its boost up, and especially since I don't think this Ribombee can protect itself, then the Cinderace should be able to clear this game. So the Arcanine goes for the Protect. That's the fourth move on the Arcanine. I'm pretty happy to see that, because that means the Dondozo eventually will prevail over it very slowly. Very, very slowly. Heavy Slam, nice little bit of chip damage with a critical hit. Doesn't really make any difference to how this end game is going to play out, but pretty nice. And now this is so tough. This is so tough because I want to knock out the Oricorio before it knocks out my Dondozo, but I also want to cover the Ribombee coming in, because if the Ribombee comes in clean, then it can really put a lot of pressure on. And if the Oricorio protects the Arcanine switches, then the Quiver Dance is in play and I'm absolutely hosed. So I've got to make a read here. And I read that the Oricorio is not going to protect, and that the Arcanine is not going to switch out this turn. I think that Jamie is going to expect me to play on the defensive and go after my... I get the call right. And the Pyro Ball misses. Not only that, if you'd been paying attention, I'd also locked in Yawn onto the Arcanine. So I had a clean double protect, or just attacks when the Ribombee comes in, and probably would from that scenario. But it didn't KO. I didn't get the KO. Arcanine did not get drowsy. Arcanine instead took a ball to the face. Cinderace said fetch. And the Revelation Dance is enough. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate. I definitely misplayed in game 2 to lose that. So I could have done a little bit better, but a bit unfortunate that having misplayed in game 2, it went to a game 3, and the game 3 didn't go my way. But fair play to Boyt, great builder. We're currently battling for the top spot in our league in the draft. So we'll see how that progresses. But with that, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week.